All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jasper Dent. I'm the events coordinator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. This event is being held on Treaty 6 territory. This is the land of the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Everything But Money, The Hidden Barriers Between You and Financial Freedom by Jessica Moorhouse. Published by HarperCollins Canada, the perfect book for tax season, one might say. Joining us tonight as host is Evan Neufeld. Thank you to both Jessica and Evan for being here tonight and for working with us at McNally Robinson to make this event happen. Very pleased to have you here. Just a note for everyone that this event is being live streamed, so there's a web camera just up to your right here. It'll just be focused on the stage, not filming the audience. I'd also like to take this moment to remind everyone in the room to silence or turn off their phones.
That's so sure we don't get a little.
If you would like to buy copies of Everything But Money, we have some here on the signing desk, and we also have some on the desk by where you walked in. And so without further ado, I would like to say a few words of introduction for our host this evening, Evan. Evan Neufeld is a certified financial planner who has been guiding Canadians with their investments and long-term financial plans since 2016. In May 2025, so next month, he will open Cedar Point Wealth, furthering his commitment to making personal finance simple and approachable so clients can live fully and retire confidently. As part of that mission, Evan launched the Canadian Money Roadmap podcast in 2020 and recently expanded to a YouTube channel, broadening access to financial education for all Canadians. Evan, I'm going to hand it off to you. Everyone, please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, well, hello and welcome.
Yes, welcome. Thanks for coming, guys.
This is the Saskatoon stop of the Everything But Money book tour, presented by BMO ETFs. I'm Evan Neufeld, and today I'm two people. So I'm a sick person today. So if I'm sniffling or coughing, please forgive me. And I'm a podcaster, as was mentioned already. And that means I'm used to talking on a mic in front of no people and as few people as possible. So forgive me if I'm a little fish out of water here today. But I'm delighted to be here with Jessica Moorhouse for her 6th event. Where else have you been so far?
All right. Toronto, Victoria, Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa, now Saskatoon. I needed to make it out to the prairies. I can't just go to the west, and I guess not. Ontario's, as I've learned, being in Toronto for I guess 12 years now, it's not considered the East Coast. But as someone from Vancouver, that's what we thought. Anything past or Ontario past is the East Coast, but there's no coast in Ontario, as I've been told.
Awesome. We're very glad to have you here. So we're excited to celebrate the release of your best-selling book, Everything But Money.
Woo!
Everybody has a copy, right?
Or you'll get one. We've got some up here.
Cool. So first we're going to do a little, what we call a fireside chat. And then just you're going to read a passage.
I'll read a little passage and then we'll open it up for Q&A. You can ask me whatever the heck you want. And then we'll do a little book signing. And I've got a little tripod thing so we can take photos easily. And we're going to have a lot of fun.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Ready to get started? Awesome. I'm going to grill Jessica here with a few questions. So has anyone here not read the book yet? Not? Show of hands. Okay.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Okay. So for that, Jessica, give us an overview. What is Everything But Money all about?
Yeah.
Besides everything but money.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what it's about. So
narrow it down.
So many people are like, oh, I haven't gotten that many people that are like, is this a book about financial planning or budgeting or investing? To which I say, there is a small section in one chapter actually about budgeting and cash flow and some financial stuff. But ultimately, it is a book I wanted to write to address the big kind of issue almost everyone has, which is, why is money so difficult? Why does money make me feel bad? Why am I still struggling with money when I'm listening to the podcast, I'm reading the books, I'm learning this stuff and it's not sticking? Is there something wrong with me? Am I bad with money? And I really wanted to write a book that shows you, no, you're not a bad person and you're not bad with money. There's just a lot going on internally. There's a lot of things, hidden barriers that are preventing you from getting out of your own way that I also discovered about myself. So everyone has their own thing with money. And so we need to really understand our relationship with money. Where did that start? What influenced it, what things are currently influencing it, and then how can we rewrite our money story and move forward in a positive way. So there are solutions at the end. It's not just like, and here's why you're messed up. No. There's some solutions as well. So you can come away at the end of the book feeling really good about your next steps.
I found it was really interesting because I work with clients of all types, and even people that have everything figured out from a typical definition financially, they often come into meetings and they apologize. It's like, oh, I haven't been keeping up with my stuff, or I don't really know this or whatever. It's like, no, you're doing everything right. So I really enjoyed going through this and kind of hearing some of the background of what someone might be going through. On the other side, even though they might even be doing all the right things as far as the dollars and cents.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that, as a financial counselor, I work with some people one-on-one, and some people it's because they're like, I feel like I'm a complete financial mess, let's fix it. But some people would come to me thinking that, and then I look at their numbers, I'm like, there's nothing wrong here. You're making good money, you're actually saving a good amount, you're not in debt. So what's the issue? And so like, oh, there's something deeper going on. We need to unpack that.
Perfect. So before we can unpack that, let's start at the very beginning. I've heard that's a very good place to start. So in the dedication, so first page, I'm going to read it. It says, this is Jessica saying, "To my loving husband, Josh, if it weren't for you, I don't know if I would have ever gone to therapy. And I mean that as a compliment."
He's so glad he's not here right now. He blushes and just wants to run out of the room whenever he's mentioned in real life. He's like, please don't look at me.
So it sounds like there's a bit of a story there. Is there something that you'd be willing to share with us in that?
Yeah, I mean, so the short story of like how that dedication came to be is I was pretty much near the end of, we were wrapping up editing, and I realized I actually didn't write a dedication because no one asked me. I'm like, this is something that they know. So I'm like, well, I'm going to send it to them before I forget, and it's not in there. And I was actually on a train from Montreal to Toronto. I was on a vacation with my parents, my husband. So we're on the train, long train ride, and I'm like, shoot, I need to, send this to my editor ASAP. And I just looked at my husband. I'm like, oh, I think I know exactly. I've always wanted to dedicate it to him because he's been my #1 supporter. And I wanted something a little bit funny, but also it's pretty meaningful in that, I talk about the importance of therapy in this book and how it's changed my life. And I was in therapy before the book, did a lot of therapy during the writing of the book. And even after the book, it's going to be a lifelong thing. And it changed how I, viewed myself and just learned more about myself and also my relationship with money. And I don't think I would have been open to ever seeing a therapist. And I think the first time I saw a therapist was maybe a year back in maybe 2014. A year after we'd moved to Toronto. I was really having a hard time just acclimatizing to this new city. And Josh was the one who went to therapy first. He went a few years before that. It was for a kind of a different reason. It was more grief counseling, but to see, especially a man, go to therapy and be vulnerable and talk about his feelings, it showed me that, oh, this is okay. I can do this too. And since then, therapy's been something I've been a big advocate for, and I talk to you about all my friends, and pretty much everyone I know is in therapy now. And I think it's such an important aspect of personal finance that doesn't get discussed. We need to talk about the deeper stuff, the inner stuff, because everything connects.
So this book is called Everything But Money. And that being said, it is about money.
It is about money.
But not numbers or dollars and cents. Okay, so if you're scared of spreadsheets, you're among friends here. This is okay. It's about everything around money that has a big impact on you. So your background and your upbringing and your memories, things like that. You mentioned later on in the book that your original idea for what you were hoping to write was very different. So where did this idea for the unconventional personal finance book come from?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that this was the book that I ended up writing, because I feel like not only was it the book that I needed to write for myself because it really did change my life, but it was the book I needed to write for everybody else because it just it didn't exist. But initially, because I've always wanted a book deal and I'm a bit of a people pleaser, I was in, conversations with my current publisher, with my agent, and I wrote a proposal that I thought they wanted. I thought they wanted a how-to personal finance book because that's what I was seeing on shelves. And that's what I presented, but I did have one line that said, and we're gonna, touch on some topics like what are the connections between money and trauma, money and behavior, money and, societal injustice and privilege and things like that. But in my mind, it maybe be at most a chapter. And they honed in on that line. They're like, yeah, we're not really feeling the rest of your proposal. We have books like that already. This is what we want you to write. Can you do that? I'm like, okay, sure. I'll do whatever you want, whatever to get the deal, fake it till you make it kind of thing. And so somehow I was able within the span of like a month and a half, rewrite my entire proposal. And what's wild, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I don't know how I did that so quickly because it took me like a year to write the other proposal. But I think it was in there. I had to, and I think I just needed permission to unlock it. And once I did, even though it was a lot of work writing this book, it all came very naturally because I think this was always something that I've been thinking about, having conversations about since I started, in personal finance over 13 years ago. So yeah, that's how it kind of came to be.
Okay, so I've never written a book before. Has anyone here written a book before? Jessica, you're the
Okay.
only one. That's amazing. Can you tell me and tell
Yeah.
all of us then about your process for writing? Do you have a favorite part or maybe the hardest part?
Oh my gosh, the favorite part was finishing. I mean, it was, you're like, oh my God, I did it. It was, it's funny because now that it's been a little while, so I finished officially writing the manuscript at the end of 2024. So it's been over a year since I handed that in, which seems crazy. But it was like, I thought the hardest part was like getting the deal. And then you got the deal and they're like, great, you got 10 months to write a book, bye. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought there'd be a little bit more hand holding or I don't know, a template I could use. No one tells you how to write a book. And so even though I've interviewed authors for a decade, everyone has a different process and everyone will tell you this is how I do it. Some people are like, I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m. every day, write for 3 hours and then do my work. And I'm like, I am not a person that can get up early. So I just kind of figured it out on my own. I did create a spreadsheet, speaking of spreadsheets, that I provided to my editor. I'm like, okay, so I know my word count is 80,000 words and I know I've got 9 chapters. So then I divided that, and she's like, I've never seen anyone do this. This is so type A. And so that actually spreadsheet was helpful for me just to keep on task with, okay, we got basically a month per chapter with a little buffer. And that's how I kind of kept it. So I just kind of organized it like that. And I wrote it in sequence, chapter 1 all the way to chapter 9, because my mind does not work in, like, I couldn't go back and forth. And I was my own researcher. I tried to find an assistant. No one had like the capacity. And so I'm like, okay, I don't have time to find another assistant. So I'm going to do it myself. And I feel like sometimes it's just like, this is just how things are supposed to be. Because as I was doing research, I would get an idea for a passage, and then I'd write it, and then everything would kind of connect. So it was kind of ultimately a puzzle that I was putting together that I had no idea what it would look like at the end of it. And even like the last chapter, which I wrote in 2 weeks, because I did not give myself enough time, and there was a couple chapters that took longer. I, was I went on vacation because I needed one in like January, like the first week of January 2024. And on that vacation was reading a few books that I referenced in that last chapter. So I was literally researching. I mean, I had a great vacation, but still there was a story from that vacation and there was books I read on that vacation that made it into that last chapter. So I was like writing to the deadline. I really was. So I don't know if I'm like, because this is my first book, I'm like, I don't know if I'm the best person to give you tips, but I'm evidence.
The only one here that's written.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of shocked that I wrote that. Like, I look at it like, who wrote that? That was another Jessica. That was Jessica from 2023 in author mode, but I don't know how I did it.
Yeah, well, for anyone that hasn't had a chance to read it or go through it, this book is not light. There's a lot in this book.
There's a lot of research
There's
in there.
a lot in here. So you say that you wrote some of it while you're on vacation. This is not a beach read. Like this is.
I know most people were probably like, why is this girl reading a book about money and happiness on the beach? I don't know.
Okay, so we're gonna get into some more of the content of the book here. And you start off the book with your first money memory. I was trying to think of mine,
Oh,
obviously,
yeah.
as we go through here. And I kind of have like money memory moments. My folks are here actually, so they might be able to piece these time periods
Yeah.
together. But we had a family business, hardware store, and I would go there when I was quite young. And sometimes I would sweep the floor, fill up the pot machine, or pick up nails in the yard and all that kind of stuff. And get $1 or $2 or whatever. And the first thing I would do would be like, how fast can I spend this on something else? And I go to the candy machine or whatever. And then one time my dad's like, you know, you don't have to spend it before you leave the room. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe. And so anyways, that was maybe a guiding path moment there, but
Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but like, I'm curious with your, your first money memories and just a relationship with money. How did you end up to now being where you are, where you're making people's financial plans and helping them with their money? Do you think anything kind of, did it all connect? I don't know.
that's a good question.
Maybe that's a big question. I'm just curious. I'm just
Yeah.
very curious.
No, it is a big question. Like I had opportunities that many people didn't have, in that I had opportunities to work and earn money in a
Mhm.
place that was safe and encouraging to do
Mhm.
that. And it wasn't, um, it wasn't required of me to make ends meet or anything like
Mhm.
that. And so that kind of created this comfortability around the idea of earning and
Mhm.
yeah, being able to work. And
But were you always curious about money? Was it always something like, I want to learn more about
yeah, a
that?
little bit. Like I had a lot of positive examples in my life,
Mhm.
especially in terms of being charitable,
Mm.
giving to others, and yeah, a lot of really positive memories actually around it. And
Wow.
so that was not a deterrent, I guess, to
Sounds like you
getting.
have a good relationship with money.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
Nothing's ever perfect, but just like looking back on how I got into the role, I guess it was never a situation where I kind of really had to come to terms with a few things from my past. So very grateful for that actually. So
Oh,
yeah, it was kind of neat to kind of to go through the process and think of it. There's a lot of exercises in the book, by the way.
A lot.
It's not just content. It's like, let's go through this. I thought that was really valuable. So anyways, so you go through your first money memories. Why is that so important?
So for me, what I found with a lot of people that I've been doing, interviews, and since the book's come out, so many people are like, here's my first money memory. I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating to find out. For me, it really set the tone with my relationship with money. And so what I realized writing this book beforehand, I thought I had a really good relationship with money. I'm like, because I'm good with money. So I thought I had a good relationship with money. Turned out not so much. Actually, it was a very unhealthy, toxic relationship with money where it was, I feel like it had too much power over me, or what it meant. And a lot of my associations with money were, negative feelings. And so my first money memory where it's, went to the grocery store with my mom. She hates the story. FYI, she absolutely hates it and doesn't remember it at all. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I was traumatized, and then I traumatized my mom for writing about it in my book. But so I went to the grocery store. I was like 4 years old. I stole a gumball because I was a kid. I'm like, no one's gonna care. And my mom obviously cared. She's like, you can't steal things. This is not okay. And I felt ashamed for stealing, and I felt ashamed for shaming my family, like putting shame on my family. And since then, I've always had shame connected with my money. And I couldn't really figure out why until this memory flooded back so vividly, which is why I wrote, I'm like, my gosh, what is happening? It just kind of flowed out. And I'm like, that's interesting. And so there's so many times in my life where something happened that was related to money and a certain feeling was associated with that memory that, as I, realized after doing a lot of introspection, that I'm like, that's why I still feel these anxious or worried or fearful or all these things, is because something happened and I never let go. I never processed it. And so I've been hanging on to all these negative feelings with money because I never really unpacked any of those things that happened to me.
I like that chapter too, because you included a number of other people's, and we're gonna get to that in a second there. But yeah, there's lots of great stories from other people that are part of Jessica's audience. Yeah, it's I found that to be really relatable Because you
so
can kind of pick and
interesting
choose like
too.
little bits, like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that, you know.
It was fast. It was also like really cool for me just to like go deeper with some people who've been following me for years and me ask them about their relationship with money and their stories. And they were so vulnerable and so open to share some of these things that they've never spoken to another person about. And I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. And thank you for sharing. And this is going to help so many people.
So as a financial planner, the bulk of my traditional education, believe it or not, is more technical about taxes and investing and money and whatever. And probably when most people see a book that has money on the front, you know, they think that's what they're gonna get.
Yeah.
And so I did find it interesting that you spend a few chapters talking about the connection between money and trauma. And I was familiar with like the big T, little t trauma. So like this doesn't mean, you know, like genocide, you know, natural disaster, taking away your house, kind of like big T trauma necessarily might be, but you know, there's plenty of other things. And I liked your explanation that like the root of the word trauma is like it's a wound. It's something that happens to you that kind of continues along with you. So why was that such an important piece to include in your book?
Yeah. Well, first is because I mean, as a podcaster who has a lot of authors on my show, I've read a lot of personal finance books and no one's talking about this. And it's so clear as day that this is a big issue that a lot of us have trauma, whether it's experienced or witnessed or inherited. There's so many different forms of trauma out there. And I know it feels like a bit of a buzzword. And I felt like that before I really dug into my own stuff because I'm like, ooh. But no, guess what? We live lives and this world sometimes isn't the safest or the friendliest, and things can happen. And a lot of us have certain coping mechanisms, whether it's like to literally block it out so we don't even remember it until we unlock it by doing therapy, or we know it's there and we just ignore it. And I did that for a lot of the trauma things that I was dealing with. A lot of the stuff I talk about in the book, you know, I had a lot of unhealthy friendships. I would just latch on to people I knew, you know, I probably shouldn't have been friends with them, but I saw the good in them. And I was a fixer. I love to fix people, or I thought I could fix people. You can't fix people. And so I'd always get burned and get hurt. And then I would get back into the cycle. And I have a certain type of person that I'm drawn to. And I'd always, you know, the cycle would always repeat. And so at a certain point, I got really hard and put a wall up and, you know, didn't allow anyone to really get too close to me as a way to protect myself. And then I also used money as a mechanism to try to heal those wounds but it was always just a band-aid. So I'm like, I'm gonna have more money, I'm gonna be successful in my career, I'm gonna do this and that, and then no one will ever want to hurt me or ignore me or treat me like I've been treated in the past. And as you know, money is not a thing that can help you with those emotional wounds. That's why there are so many billionaires with rockets in the sky when they really just need to see a therapist. You know, we all have something. And I think that's the other thing. We all have something. We've all come from somewhere and something happened, and it is what it is, but we need to work through it. Otherwise, you know, we're going to keep just repeating the cycle of like making more money and you're still miserable and you're always moving up the goalpost and you don't know why. Or what I was seeing with a lot of clients is, you know, there's so many people out there that are overspending. Why is that? Is it because they're bad with spending? No, usually it's because something happened to them. And whenever they're triggered, and it can be something that's connected to money or not connected to money, such as, you know, they came from a certain household, maybe there was some abuse or something like that. Whenever they're reminded of maybe their childhood and they, you know, feel emotionally dysregulated, they turn to, you know, things like food, or it could be money to get that dopamine hit, to get back into that place of like calm, safety, and connection. And so I really want to explore, no matter what's happened to you, and you may never have made that connection to your financial situation, but maybe something happened to you in the past. And every time you get triggered, you do a certain thing with your money to feel better. And that's why you keep on getting into debt, spending your savings, and just undoing maybe all the hard work. And I saw that with so many people. They were good with money and then they did something to hurt themselves, and it would be back and forth. So I really want to be like, maybe this is why, and this is how we can stop that cycle.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stories in the book of very relatable things. Like even if it's not always relatable, but the one that stood out to me was I'm forgetting their names, but the person who was splitting a tab at the restaurant, and
I'll be honest, I forget the names too.
yeah, sure. And someone's
They're
like,
all
"Well,
fake names for everybody, so I'm like, I actually don't remember the fake names or real names.
John
So,
S and John B.
yeah,
and
it's actually the people in the book are so safe because I cannot remember any of the names. They're real people will never be revealed. But yeah, the
you know,
splitting of the vote.
they're splitting a tab, and you know, Johnny Fancy decides to order expensive bottles, and
Mhm.
and then it's like, oh my goodness, I'm still paying off my credit card. I can't do this. And like, how do you say no, or how do you even speak up to this? It's just like I could feel like
Yeah.
the emotion in that moment of
Yeah. I feel like we've probably also
discomfort.
all been probably in a situation, like definitely in my 20s, I was the lowest income earner of my friend group. And I used to feel so, again, ashamed for going out like to the bar, to a restaurant, and they're all ordering these things. And I'd be like, no, I'm okay. But really it's because not that I didn't want to order this side dish or whatever. So I'm like, I can't afford it. And I'm too embarrassed to say that I earn significantly less than all of you guys.
One of the things that I hear the most from people that are in a really good financial position, they say, how do people afford all this stuff?
Yeah.
Want to know the secret? They don't.
They don't?
They
Yeah.
can't.
You don't know. Yeah, that's
like in some very few cases, they
but a lot of
can.
people are spending money that they don't have to
For
keep
sure.
up with people that they want to keep up with, or to, again, there's so many different reasons why people spend the money they do.
Yeah, one of my colleagues, he says that people are just broke at a different level. Like you can have a lot more zeros, but you can still be broke. Yeah, anyways, so all these different stories, I thought it was great. Why was presenting different money stories, right? So like in chapters, it's not just leaning into one concept over and over again. You kind of take both sides of a factor. Why was that so important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to share some of my personal stories so people can be like, oh, okay, I can connect with that. But I also realized I'm a very specific person. I'm a white girl from suburbia, you know, in Vancouver, and I have a lot of privilege, and not everyone can relate to who I am and who I present to be. And so I never want anyone to pick up this book and feel like unseen, or be like, well, I can't relate to this. I have a very different upbringing or situation. And so I wanted to have a variety of different people involved in the book, different ages, different backgrounds from all over the country and sometimes in the US. So people can maybe at least find one person that they're like, oh my God, that's me. And it's so fascinating that, you know, talking to people who've read the book, they will identify a story. They're like, that's me, that's me. And I'm so excited to be able to be like, so when you identify that you're one of these people, or you can relate to part of their story, you don't feel alone anymore. And then you feel like, oh, it's not just me. No, it's everyone. Everyone's got something. Everyone comes from somewhere. And we all have a lot more in common. And as a saying that me and my husband love to say, I don't know where it came from, but we say it all the time, as you know, we're all just doing the same thing, but sometimes in a different location or a different time, but we're all just mucking about trying our best in this life. But no one has a rule book. No one knows no one knows what they're doing. So, you know, it is what it is.
That's great. So you didn't just muck around writing the book. You did quite a bit of research for this book. Was there anything that you discovered in your research that surprised you?
Gosh, yeah, research was very important because I always had like this little inner critic in the back of my head. My worst fear was someone being like, well, you said this, but back it up. What, you know, where'd you find that stat? And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make sure everything is backed up by something. Like it's like a research paper, it's like my thesis. In terms of like, yeah, what was pretty surprising. I mean, honestly, like some things I knew, but when you saw some of the stats, the numbers, it was kind of shocking. So the chapter on like societal injustice and privilege and stuff like that, it made me really sad to see in the real numbers that yeah, what I kind of thought was true is true. Here's what's going on. People of color earn significantly less and they're working, you know, just as hard. Or, you know, there is a penalty, a motherhood penalty for any woman who has children. Whereas for men, they actually get a little bump if they're a father. Like I even talked about this with my husband. We're not going to have children, but he's like, I know for a fact in my industry, he works in music, it would benefit me if I had children. And I know for a fact for me, it it would be harder. Like I'm so proud of women who are able to have an amazing career and have kids. I don't know how you do it. It's incredible, but I know it's just so much harder. And so to see some of these numbers of these are things that exist, these big barriers to reaching your goals and doing what you want to do, it was very, yeah, it was shocking, some of these stats that were out there.
So you have a whole chapter dedicated to that topic of privilege and discrimination. So what were you hoping that readers take away from that section of the book?
For that, I was really hoping that we can all just understand our fellow human better, especially if they're very different than us. And again, sometimes we live in such a bubble, it's hard to be like, no, that can't be true. They're lying. You know, I say this so much on the internet when you're just like on threads and you're like, well, no, if they said this was their experience, that's their experience. It may not be your experience, but doesn't make it untrue. And so I want to really just open things up, especially, you know, if you do have any kind of form of privilege, to really recognize that it's okay to acknowledge. It's actually really great if you acknowledge it, because then we can move past that and start breaking down these barriers. So if you aren't born in a certain, you know, location or ethnicity, we want to make things more equitable. And so the first step is acknowledging that things are not equitable. Not to really bring this up, but there is, I brought this up like one night, just, I haven't read the article, but there is one review of my book from the Winnipeg Free Press from a journalist who missed the point of the book, and he really did not like the point, the chapter on privilege. And I literally wanted to like just email him and be like, you literally have, like, you missed the point. I'm talking to you. That is so important to acknowledge that this exists, because otherwise we're ignoring the problem and we're not figuring out solutions for everybody. We're just gonna be like 100 years later, nothing's changed.
I seem to tick every box on the privilege chapter.
Yeah, and
And
that's okay.
no, and I didn't feel like it was finger points.
How dare you?
Yeah. No, I thought it was a really important conversation to have in there. So
And
yeah,
it's supposed to kind of make you uncomfortable, because then you can be like, okay, why does it make me uncomfortable? You know?
And so then the final chapter is about money and happiness.
Yeah, much happier, lighter chapter. I wanted to leave it on a lighter note.
And the old saying goes, money can't buy happiness, right? And to some extent that is true. But at the same time, there's some research and there's some conflicting ideas around that. Can you explain what you wanted to get across in that chapter?
Yeah, so money can improve there's research that shows money can improve your happiness to a certain extent, but where people get it kind of confused is money cannot cure or solve your unhappiness. If you're already unhappy, depressed, miserable, whatever, and you think more money is going to make to fix that, it's not. The stats show it will not solve that. However, if you're already like pretty satisfied and happy, a little bit more money can make you a little bit more comfortable and maybe improve your happiness to a certain extent. Like there's a certain cap where like it's, you know, I think when we see some of these people who living these luxury lives, I don't think they live luxury lives because it becomes regular and normal for them. Whereas I'm almost like, I don't really ever want to be in a space where I'm like, you know, used to being on a yacht, because then it's not like, oh my God, we're on a yacht. You're like, oh, just another yacht, you know, and then it's like, what will make you happy? You've had everything. So that was really kind of talking about, let's look at the science of it, so we can also disconnect this idea that if we want happiness, we need money. We need money to make us comfortable and safe and secure and meet our needs. But what actually makes you happy, the things that fit that bill, are things that are low cost or free. And so I talk about in the book the Perma Plus model, and I refer back to it often when I'm having like a bad day. I'm like, what's gonna make me happy? Oh yeah, things like community, you know, an activity that's really engaging, like a puzzle or gardening or playing a video game or reading a book, you know, getting enough rest, working out, all these really simple things that we all know are good for us. Sometimes we need a reminder, yeah, those things actually give you more long-term happiness than, you know, making a little bit more money or buying something at the store.
Yeah, and you reference a couple of different studies in there, so we can. So we weren't going to talk about numbers, but there's some numbers here that I thought was interesting. So like the numbers, you know, when happiness kind of peaks as it relates to money, it's just above the median income.
Yeah.
Like it's not that much, right? So and that should be enough in most places in Canada
Yeah.
to kind of meet those safety, security, hunger, those kind of needs. And then marginally from there, maybe get a little bit bigger house, a little bit newer car, whatever. And then from there, it doesn't really
Yeah,
move
it
the
doesn't
needle.
really, yeah. And for me too, this was a big test for me. I realized again that I wasn't doing a lot of these things that I knew would make me happy because of, again, my own traumas and things like that. And so I really put myself out there and started doing some of these things. Like I used to feel guilty for like binge watching Bridgerton or, just doing something for the fun of it because I definitely got caught up in hustle culture, like lots of people that have online businesses, and everything is about being productive. And then to a point, you feel like if you're not doing something productive, you're doing something wrong, and you're like, wait, what am I even doing? And so I had to like unlearn and relearn a bunch of stuff that would make me happy. And so I love reading books, and I used to not allow myself to read certain books because they were just bubblegum, but I love like a celebrity memoir. I love it. And I'm like, you know what? Lean into it. Read Britney's freaking memoir. Like all the like honestly, I'm looking at all those. I'm like, I've read so many of those right now. And they're all amazing and they make me happy. And I shouldn't like, not allow myself to do that. It doesn't make any sense. So just lean into what makes you happy and do it, and you'll be like, oh yeah, what was the problem in the first place? There's no problem.
So, as you can probably pick up, you cover a lot of ground in this book. But out of all the different areas you explore, what do you hope is the main takeaway after reading this book? I could open it up and read the last chapter,
No,
but I'll let you.
I definitely kind of, and this was actually, I think, well, no, I don't want to reveal. This might be one of the fire, the rapid fire questions, but at the end of the book, I really go back to kind of the main purpose of the book, which was to remind you that you are not your self-worth is not your net worth. You are more than your money. Even though I work every day in this world of personal finance and I see people talking about money every single day, I even need to remind myself that this is not the point. The point is to really learn your relationship with money, heal from the things, rebuild it so you have a good relationship with money, learn the practical how-to things, and then do those things and stick to it, and then live your life. Like you really shouldn't be as obsessed with money as most people are, or myself. And just, realize there's more to life than money. You are more than your money.
We are on the same page
Yeah.
there. Yep, that's great. Awesome. Let's go into a little rapid fire here just to wrap things up so we have enough time for Q&A at the end. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Super rapid. What was the original title for your book?
Oh yeah, so this was what I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna reveal that it was more than your money or more than money. And the reason it wasn't more than money, my editor or my publisher was more than happy to have that as a title, is I then went on Amazon and looked, and there's like 5 books called that. I'm like, did no one Google this? Like, we can't name this book. There's already 5 books with that name. We need something unique. Even though when you look on Amazon, there is another book called Everything But Money. It is from the 1960s and it's like a memoir. And I'm actually curious what the hell that book's about. It's very different than this book, though.
Would you change anything now that the book is out into the world?
I mean, the one thing I've been saying is like there is one mistake in the book, and I misspelled my grandma's first name. That's on me. I Googled because her name is Cologne, which is a very, unique French name. And I always thought it was spelled a certain way, but then I Googled it and her obituary had it spelled differently. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been spelling it wrong all these years. Put it in the book. And then I sent a copy, like a digital copy before I went to print. Or no, I think it was after I went to print, to my mom. And my mom called me. She's like, hey. I'm like, oh my God, did you find a typo? She's like, you misspelled your grandma. Like, shoot. So hopefully in the reprint that will be fixed. It doesn't matter. I only know. Now you know. But in general, honestly, when I think back to the book and whip through it, I'm really satisfied with every single thing. There's nothing that I kept in that I wish wasn't in there. There's nothing I took out that was necessary to kind of move the message forward. So I'm actually really happy with how it is.
Awesome, that's great. And for anybody that buys a copy today, you are going to have the misprinted one that is now going to increase in value. So
Yeah.
Okay, so what has it been like seeing your book for sale and getting feedback and sitting in rooms like this?
It's been amazing. I mean, the reason I keep on adding city stops is I can't get enough of it. I love it. It's so much fun to meet people who will actually show up on a weeknight to hang out with me and hear me talk. And to see it in bookstores, it still doesn't quite feel real. It feels like it's an out of body experience that is the book that I wrote. That is my name on it. That is so crazy to me. It's I just feel like so extremely lucky to have this experience. This is honestly, this was a bucket list thing that I never thought I'd ever be able to achieve. So for me to write this book, and this particular book, I feel really, really lucky.
Awesome. Well, that's it from me in terms of the formal question.
Thank you so much, Evan.
You're officially off the hot seat. Well, actually, you're not, because we're gonna
No, we're
ask
gonna do
some
a
questions
Q&A
later.
now.
But did you want to read a passage?
Yes,
first?
yeah.
Feel free to.
Oh, and every time, like, it's the passage I was gonna read. Let's see if I
Start
can
at the
find it.
beginning,
Let's see if
yeah.
I can find it.
Sure. This is a good time to start preparing whatever questions you might have.
Oh yeah, here we go. This is what it's from the beginning. Sorry. Page again. Okay. So it's about everything but money. So this is from the introduction. If you were to go to any bookstore right now, you would find a multitude of books about how to pay off debt, budget, and invest, all with a promise that if you follow through with their simple steps, you'll live a better life. And for some people, that may be enough. Some people may just be looking for a guide on how to pay off their debt, and once debt-free, they'll be content with their money. Some people may just be looking for an easy-to-follow budget template, outlining how best to organize their finances. Some people may not know the first thing about investing and are just looking for some actionable steps on how to get started. But for the rest of us, we need more than that. Part of the reason I decided to become an accredited financial counselor was because I wanted to learn how to dig deep with my clients. Having entered the personal finance landscape in 2011, I'd gotten used to talking with people from all backgrounds and income levels about their money issues. But conversation after conversation, one thing was always clear. Their problems weren't just about money. They were actually about everything but money. Okay, I'll leave it there. Otherwise I can go into this whole other section, but I think that's a good way to kind of get into the Q&A now.
Thanks, Jessica.
Okay.
Any
So
questions?
maybe
I can
do
run
you
around.
wanna? Oh, okay, yeah, thank you.
But
Don't be
going
shy.
on-
That's right. Who's gonna be the first one to break the seal?
I can just start at the front and I'll just go to everything.
Yeah, every. Come on, just one person, just be the brave person to reach. There we go. Here we go. Let's get it started.
I'm just getting it started.
Yeah.
It's not really so much a question, Jessica.
That's okay.
But it's more to thank you for coming here. Saskatoon, I know, isn't the biggest city in the cities you
I love
mentioned.
Saskatoon.
And to thank you also for inspiring me. I'm not gonna cry
Oh,
because I got stuck on the trauma chapter. So
yeah, that was everyone.
clearly I'm gonna have to get some other help, and then I just skipped it, and I'm
Fair enough.
gonna have to come back to
I
it.
think I
But
even talk about that. I'm like, if this is too much,
I turned out,
you know, move forward. It's
Yeah.
okay. Skip a chapter.
But the other thing is, it's just I'm very privileged and I do recognize that, but there are things to hear in your book that are small t trauma
Yeah.
that it is nice to just, I guess, be
Yeah.
kind of have that recognized. And I struggle in my life to find women who want to have a conversation about finance.
Oh yeah.
Very intelligent women I work with, like there's nothing wrong with them, but it's a cultural thing, maybe my age.
Yeah.
Lack of education, don't want to talk about it. They'll say their husband doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so I just found your podcast and I was inspired. So now you're gonna wish I didn't start because I'm talking, but I just found it very helpful and to hear from a woman. And I was motivated in the last 3 years, well, forced to be motivated to absolutely get a better financial background, read so many books, and I'm so proud of myself, and listening to your podcast has helped. But this book was hard.
Sorry. No, it's not an easy book to
No,
read
but
because I think
necessary.
you have to really unpack and be vulnerable, and it's
And
it's
that's why I'm
about
thanking you for
feelings
doing
and
it.
it's
You-
difficult.
You did make yourself vulnerable in
Yeah.
writing this and being
Yeah.
on the podcast, and it's helped me.
Thank you.
And it's the book that wasn't written in all of the books I've been obsessively reading.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyways, That's
Oh,
not so much a question.
no, I thank you for saying that. That means a
And the
lot to
weather's
me.
bad now, but
Is it? I
come
think it's
back
okay. It's
Saskatoon,
just a bit
it's-
windy. I don't know.
Yeah, next book you write.
Like it's not great in Toronto right now.
If you could help
Like,
me with
it's-
retirement there, that's my question,
No.
my request.
Sorry,
'Cause
what was
that's
it? What did you-
retirement at some point because a Canadian
Yeah.
author, Canadian, thank you for being Canadian
Yeah.
too. Retirement's a lot of emotions and what you want, and I
Yeah.
can see you would be very good at writing a book on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. One thing I do want to say, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, is I want to come to Saskatoon specifically because I have a few great memories coming here. I've been here twice before. One when I was like 19, and I actually was meaning to write this in the book, but there just wasn't a point to write it. But when I was 18, just started university, and I was kind of exploring, religion and faith and stuff like that. I grew up Catholic, and then I had an older sister who was part of a Bible study full of Mennonites. I'm like, sure, I'll go. And honestly, it was just for the boys. I just wanted to, like, date somebody. But there's an opportunity for me and some other people to go on a mission trip, and pretty much everyone on the mission trip besides this other guy from my Bible study were from Saskatoon. So we had a lot of friends from Saskatoon like 20 years ago, and they were the nicest people. And I, connected with one, we became really good friends. And then I visited her once in Saskatoon. And it was such a great, trip that I'll remember forever. And then the other really great experience I have being in Saskatoon is, so me and my husband live in Toronto now. We're originally from Vancouver, but we sold all of our stuff, and this was like, gosh, when I was in my mid-20s, sold all of our stuff, packed whatever we could in our little car that we still have. It is being run into the ground. And we drove across Canada, and part of that was stopping in Saskatoon. And I just remember we had a nice dinner, and we're just walking around the city. We're like, this is a really nice, cute place. I love this place. So I just have really nice memories of here. So this is why I wanted to make sure I came here, because y'all are great.
Any other questions?
Or comments, whatever.
Comments only?
You're open for anything. That's okay. If you're too shy, I'm gonna, what we could do is you can ask me anything in private when I'm like signing your books and then meeting you. How's that sound? So yeah. Oh, we got one. Okay, cool.
Again, thanks for coming to Saskatoon. I was surprised kind of when I saw it. I've been following the book and everything, and then when I saw it, I dragged my husband along even for
Thanks for coming.
You made a comment earlier. You said you don't plan on having kids.
Yeah.
But I know you're an auntie, right?
I am.
So-
I've got a 5-year-old niece. She turned 6 in July. I don't know. Like, she just keeps getting older. It's
Okay.
crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on that. We have 2 little girls, and my sister doesn't have kids, likely won't. And just the value of an auntie who isn't also a mom,
Yeah.
it's what a gift.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
because it's when you're a mom, you get tied up with your own things.
Yeah.
But to have an auntie nearby, and I know you.
I mean, I'm not nearby this.
Yeah,
I'm the
yeah.
fun aunt who pops in twice a year, gives her some gifts, plays with her, and then leaves.
But quality over.
But I am making sure I provide some money for her college fund, Like, this is what auntie can do. I'm
Yeah.
gonna set you up.
Just the value of aunties. I wanted to comment
Yeah,
on
thank
that and ask
you.
you about your experience.
Yeah, no, I love being an aunt, and it's funny, I don't get a lot of questions about being a woman and choosing to be childless, and this was a choice that me and my husband made, just based off of what we wanted in our lives. But it is just something that sometimes gets brought up, but not really. But yeah, I feel like as a human, it's there's different ways that you can show up for people or support your family, and I look to my sister, who's honestly, I give her a shout out at the back of the book, because she honestly is way smarter than me and a much better writer, and she is yet to be published, but I know she will, and she's just like amazing, and was my inspiration for even thinking that I could write a book. She's just such an incredible person, and she's just an incredible mom, and she's such an inspiration to me. And so when I look to women who have children, I'm like, you are rock stars. I don't know how like, you are just absolutely amazing.
But so are you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take that. I'll take it.
Awesome. Okay, well, if there's no other comments. Oh, here
There
we
we
go.
go. We got the
Oh,
ball
it's
rolling.
rolling. Here we go.
Got it.
Once again,
Hi.
hi. And Director Threads a lot. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, who are you? Well, if I'll find you on Threads, we'll see who you are.
We
Yeah,
chat a
like,
lot.
oh yeah. I'm like, there's some people, I don't know if people know, but I have a lot of online friends who have been DMing or like talking on Threads for years, and it's so weird when I meet them in person. I'm like, oh yeah, we know each other, but we've never met. So thanks for coming.
I know you talk about have a bit of entrepreneurship background and money background, and I'm just wondering what you would say to your past self with all the knowledge you've gained over the years.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, when I
Or
look
one
back,
or 2 points.
yeah, when I look back to who I was, especially in my 20s when I was just starting out, I wish I could go back in time and just be kinder to myself. Man, was I rough. And I think part of it was being influenced by certain money experts, and the financial tone at the time was very shame and blame. Like it was like I call it like the Simon Cowell the time of finance where, you know, the Dave Ramsey kind of like, you're terrible with money, it's all your fault. And I'm like, it is my fault. And I'm like, my gosh, I want something. So I wish there was a softer voice, or and now we're seeing a lot more of that in the space, which is amazing, probably because so many people were traumatized with people like that. But I wish I could go back and be like, everything's going to be okay. And you don't have to be that hard on yourself, and you don't have to be perfect. And it's okay that you don't know everything right now, but just keep going. And I think I would have, yeah, been a lot happier, or just, you know, enjoyed the journey instead of being focused so much on the destination. I know that's so cliche, but it really is true. It's now, as I am, you know, I'm 38 now, turning 39 very soon. And as I am getting close to that next decade, I'm all about, I just want to be kinder to myself and really enjoy the journey, because my gosh, I don't know how 10 years went by and 20 years went by. Life goes by so quick. So we need to really take care of ourselves. Yeah.
I'm over here now. Looking. All right, well.
Is that anybody, you know? No,
Nobody else?
that's okay. Okay, cool. I'll be up here.
Well, join me in thanking Jessica for for this.
Yeah,
evening.
thank you so much. Honestly, thank you so much for coming. Like I kind of said, I was kind of terrified that no one would show up, but I think about that every single event because I know you have busy lives. And so to see pretty much all those chairs being sat in, it really warms my heart. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your days to come hang out with me this evening. So thank you so much. And yeah, with that, you know, Evan will be here if you have any financial questions. He's a financial planner. If you have any concerns about the market or taxes,
I'll
bug
send you
him.
elsewhere, yeah.
Yeah, he'll send you straight, and I'll be here. And you know, I've got books, I've got bookmarks for everybody, and I can't wait to chat with you all one-on-one. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for McNally Robinson for hosting us. Honestly, I've heard so many people that I know in Saskatoon like, oh, this is the best bookstore. So thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you for coming.